Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to share with you my new favorite virtual vision board. You know that I love all things affirmations, visualization, and meditation, and we talk about these topics often on the podcast. So when I came across the Perfectly Happy Vision Board app, I was really excited to try it out. What I love most about it is that it's a convenient and powerful way to visualize your dream life, become clearer in what you want to achieve, and it helps you stay focused and motivated. I also love that you can set multiple daily reminders to take a mindfulness break and help you visualize your dreams, which, as you know, helps you build a resilient mindset. What you do is you download the app and you go through the steps to create your own vision board, where you can add in photos and music and affirmations to each area of your life that you're trying to manifest in. The best part is that all of the things that you need are already in the app. The combination of sound and photo and affirmations makes your vision board more vivid and ultimately easier to manifest. What I also love is that you can write unlimited daily gratitude journal entries to help you reflect on your day and really build that gratitude muscle. I can honestly say that all of the things that I put on my own vision board have happened, and it was so wild to see it all come to life. It only takes 3 minutes per day, and I really think that we all have 3 minutes. Start your free trial of the Perfectly Happy app by clicking on the link in the show notes. Okay, let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to this week's episode. I'm your host, Simona, and I'm really excited to bring you this conversation today because we are talking all about TikTok. Not only TikTok, though, we're talking about TikTok for business. So we're talking about how to make your TikToks go viral. What do you need to do on TikTok to really make a presence? What I've noticed with TikTok in particular, especially in the podcasting industry, there's so much untapped potential there and so many different ways that you can make your content really explode and really impactful in an online space with an audience of unlimited people, essentially. So I sit down with Samantha Vlasceanu, who is the TikTok coach. She is an entrepreneur at heart and has spent the last 10 years as an operational consultant. She's also a mom of 2 and understands full well the demands of social media and how daunting it can be for some. Her specialty is working with badass SHE.E.Os that are looking to make more by working smarter, not harder. She started using TikTok when she was looking to promote and grow her own startup venture and quickly grew from 0 to 120,000 followers. She tells us this story in this podcast episode, you guys, and it's actually really, really, really inspiring. She realized brands and businesses weren't using TikTok to their advantage, and the platform had so much untapped potential. Her mission is to help and teach you to create more engaging content that will convert your followers into actual paying customers. So join me for this conversation today, all about TikTok. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the show wherever you're listening. I would be so grateful to connect with you over this episode. Let me know what you think. Let me know how it's helpful for you. And let's dive into this conversation. Welcome, Samantha, to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Hi, Simona. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast today.
Oh my goodness, it's my pleasure. I'm so excited to bring this conversation to everyone who's listening right now. I know that it's going to be so impactful because TikTok, while we thought it was like, you know, when it first started, everyone was kind of like, oh, TikTok, this app. But then it's like, no, it's not going anywhere. I don't think anytime soon. Thoughts?
Nope. I can bore you with all my stats if you want, but like, let's save that for a little bit later.
Yes, I love it so much. So I guess to dive in, can you just tell the listeners a little bit about, you know, the journey that's brought you to where you are today with being the TikTok coach?
Absolutely, Simona. So back in 2020, COVID hit and I had a different business. It was in the travel industry and I felt like the only entrepreneur that couldn't pivot at the time. My business had to shut down. I was just seeing everyone else doing really well during the pandemic and I didn't know what to do. Yeah. So I turned to TikTok as one of my outlet to go to really take out my frustration. And I was literally hooked from the moment I downloaded it. I was learning from all these mom hacks, parenting hacks, entrepreneurs tips and whatnot. I was being entertained by these creative creators and being mind blown of how well they're doing on their marketing campaign. So I did the same thing during the pandemic and I started marketing my traveling business at the time. And man, it was mind blowing of how well that platform worked. And I was able to market and get featured in magazines, guest podcasts, you name it, I got it on the TikTok platform, and I was selling on that platform when my business was closed.
Wow.
That's when I realized I gotta be a TikTok coach to teach other businesses how to do the exact same thing and more. So I grew my TikTok account from 0 to 120,000 followers in months, right? Like,
What?
exactly. And Instagram would have taken me years to get to those numbers. And we could talk about how I did it, or the algorithm of TikTok, and how it's so different than other Facebook and Instagram and you name it, all these other social media platforms. But this is why TikTok is where business needs to show up as.
I love that so much. And it's so true. I think that it's like as hard as 2020 was in terms of like a year for a lot of businesses, because not every single business was able to pivot, right? But you had this incredible opportunity and like this little nudge, you know what I mean? To dive into something that you were so like happy to be on and doing already and teaching other people to do that. And I think that's so incredible. And so I mean, between now and just for our listeners who are listening now, between now and when this airs, there will be some time that will have gone by. So maybe things that we talk about today may be a little bit different at that point. But I feel like the premise of the app stays the same and the strategies are, you know, very transferable, you know, from business to business. So I guess I would love to just know, what were some things that you did at the beginning to, you know, grow yourself from that 0 number to 120,000 followers? That's insane.
Yeah. Okay. So before we go into that part, let me explain how TikTok works. Right?
Yes. You know what? Yes, that's a really good point.
TikTok has been downloaded over 2 billion times. Okay. And of those 2 billion downloads, you have 800 million active users on the platform on any given week. So Simona, if I was to ask you, like, how long do you think it took Instagram to get to those active user counts?
Oh my gosh.
Take a guess.
5 years?
Very close.
Oh.
6. That wasn't bad. That was a very close good guess.
Okay.
You know how long it took TikTok to get to those active user counts?
How long?
3. And it's not slowing down. Your jaw's like dropped right now.
I know. I'm for everyone who's just listening to this, I'm like, huh? That is crazy. Hold on. 3 years or 3 months?
3 years to get to those numbers.
So it's been around for longer than just this last year?
Yeah, remember, it started off as a dancing app for teenagers, right? And if your listeners are like, well, I don't want to go on TikTok, dude, like my demographic is not teenagers, that's okay. Because of those 800 million active users, you have 350 million active users who are over the age of 30. And you know how long they're spending on the app? Take a guess in minutes.
I mean, I know for myself, I spend like 4 hours, but I think I fall into that demographic.
They don't spend that long. You're not the average, but the average do spend about 80 minutes a day on the app, right?
Oh my goodness.
So that same demographic on Instagram, they're spending about 30 minutes a day on Instagram and 80 minutes on TikTok.
Wow. What is it, do you think, that makes TikTok just like so consumable, you know?
Yeah, the fact that it hits the short attention span side of the brain, right? Yes, it's video, but it's all short form videos. So when you make a video, you focus on one point and you deliver value to your audience based on that one point.
I love that so much. That's such a true point. And especially because it is so short, you're really not investing that much time. And I think that's why the time flies by so quickly and you don't really realize like how many short videos you're watching that are like 30 or 15 seconds long.
Yeah. And the fact that like you can be very genuine on TikTok, I've noticed. Yes, don't get me wrong. I love Instagram. I love Facebook. It is a little saturated and it is very fragmented. I mean, if you were to look at a coach, like there's a lot of coaches out there.
Right.
If you were to look at coach on TikTok, there's not that many. So that's another big thing for your business and your listeners that are listening right now is that don't you want to be one of the first movers on TikTok? I mean, I would have loved that opportunity back on Instagram in 2009, wouldn't you, Simona?
100,000%. I would have loved that.
100, exactly. And we knew back then it was only serving university kids. And
Mm.
same thing with TikTok. It did start out for kids. It's not going that way no more.
Exactly. Oh, that's such a good point. And you know what? It's so true. And I feel like, I even think about my TikTok account. I'm not overly active on it, but I've posted things here and there. I really enjoy it. Like I like creating content for it. And what's good too is that the content that you create there, you can just transfer over to Instagram, which is a bonus. But
Yeah.
right, but you're like creating for this cool platform and all these people who are, listening in on all these different topics that you would never normally get the chance to learn about if you didn't, if you didn't go on there and explore it.
100%. Exactly. And you just said it too. You can always repurpose your content. So you're creating 4 different posts on 4 different social media platforms. You just reuse your TikTok content, break it down into an Instagram Reels or Instagram story, share it on your Facebook group, as long as it still looks native to the platform you're sharing. Right.
Exactly. Oh, that's so key too, right? So, okay, let's backtrack just a little bit because I'd love to know from your story, like what are some of the things that you have done or like tested out on TikTok that's brought you to where you are, like in terms of your following and the reach that you're having on there?
Yeah. So you always want to remember these 4 things, right? When you're creating content, make sure you're delivering value to your audience, right? And that's I know that word gets thrown out a lot, value. What's value, right? And so I'm going to give you guys this tip. Ask yourself, is your content educational? Or is your content entertaining for your audience? Or is your content inspiring? And then once you've mastered these 3 pillars, then start promoting a service or product your audience needs to know about, right? We want to give before we ask. And so keep in mind the 80-20 rule of business. 80% of the time on social media, we want to market and move our audience up the engagement ladder before we start selling to them.
So true. I love that so much. And I feel like that's just such a good reminder to people that it's like, value doesn't always have to be hours and hours of content, right? Like value can literally be 15 seconds. It's just how you create the post.
100%. I mean, some of your listeners might be thinking, well, it's still just for dancing. I don't want to dance. Keep in mind, none of my clients are dancing. My clients are all professional service-based companies that are lawyers, coaches, accountants. I even have a doctor on one of my client lists.
Oh,
and
cool.
None of them are dancing. We're all talking straight to the camera, like how you and I are doing right now. We're talking like as if we're having a conversation.
I love that. And so in terms of like the type of content that you want to put out there, if you're a service-based provider, it's probably better than to be putting out things like, tips, like top 3 tips, like that kind of stuff.
Well, if you are looking, like, if you're wondering, well, where do I start kind of thing, start with your top 10 FAQ questions you get asked by your clients quite often, right? So, Simona, you're a life coach. What's something you always get asked about?
Oh my gosh, limiting beliefs all the time, like that fear, that imposter syndrome.
Yes. Yeah. So talk about imposter syndrome. What is imposter syndrome? Why does it hinder us? And maybe even give a surprising fact. Like maybe you say 1 in 3 female entrepreneurs have a harder time battling imposter syndrome than men, right? It's a surprising fact now. I made that up, but then you go ahead and you go explain why that is. And you tell us what we can do as a female entrepreneur, how to overcome that fear.
I love that. Now, what are your thoughts on doing things in like part 1, part 2, part 3? Are we still seeing that trend being like effective? Because I know personally, like I see part 1 and I'm immediately searching for part 2, but if part 2 is not there, I'm not going back to look for it.
As long as you're doing it with a good intention and not doing it just to gain followers or likes. So for a good example is if you're doing it where you're sending people to check out Instagram for behind the scenes for part 2, you have the right intention, right? You're giving them a different dimension of you. If you're doing a part 5 series because you couldn't fit everything in, or you want to break out your blog of top 10 tips, that's a good intention. But if you're doing it to be like, oh, follow me on for part 5, but you don't actually deliver on that, then you lose that trust between you and me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean, because there's so many videos that I watch on TikTok that I'm like, oh my God, like I want to see the rest. And then it's like, that part 1 was posted like 3 weeks ago and there's like no part 2 or 3. And I'm like, I don't understand here. I want to see the rest.
Yeah. What a teaser.
Exactly. Okay. So value is one. So that's really important. Is there anything else that you would share with our listeners in terms of, growing their reach and their impact?
Yeah, you gotta be yourself, right? I know that sounds so cliche, but a lot of times I see on TikTok, people post things that will just get them likes and views, but then in the long-term game, it doesn't suit them because they're exhausted by posting these content that has nothing to do with their business, but it got them a lot of likes and views, right? Exactly. So just keeping that in mind, like you want to be true to yourself and keep the topics that you're very passionate about. And because it's such a short attention span app, the video quality really matters, right, Simona? Mm-hmm. It's like when you submit a resume to an HR person, you have 2 seconds. 2 seconds to capture their attention before they scroll through your resume. It's the same thing with TikTok.
It's so true. That's such a good point. And I also feel like, in terms of, would you say it's the same as like, on Instagram or what have you, like, really dialing in on your niche and like sticking to those same talking points that you would talk about on Instagram type of thing? Or is there a little bit more like creative, like, freedom? Because I'll take an example for myself. So my core business is podcast management and production. And I also am a life coach, you know what I mean? And so I was doing the life coaching for the last 2 years, and I've just recently made this pivot. And so my TikTok account and a lot of the content that I put out there is about like podcasting tips, like all that kind of stuff, right? But then I also will throw in a couple of, I don't know, like mindset specific things, like, reminders that you need to hear and that kind of stuff. Do you find that, it's better to stick with one type of content and just like go hard on that? Or, perhaps just being a little bit more diverse in your content?
So your good example was actually a very good example where I would say you only need one account because your niche, while your topics might vary, it's still serving the same type of target audience, entrepreneurs, right?
Right.
So for me, I had 2 accounts because my first account for Traveling Munchkin, it was serving moms, right? And like moms, like the B2C consumer side. Right. And then now on the TikTok side, I serve entrepreneurs. So it didn't make sense to combine the account because I'm already targeting one very strong niche, and then it would take TikTok algorithm to take a while to switch it over to entrepreneurs. So I just created 2 separate accounts.
Gotcha.
Think of who your audience is and tailor your content to that specific audience, even if it's 2 separate topics.
I love that. That's great to know too, because I feel like that can be a little bit challenging for some people. I mean, we're multifaceted entrepreneurs, right? We have more than one interest, and there's more than one thing that makes us who we are, right? So I love that. That's great. I love it. So, okay, those are 2 really amazing tips. I have so many other questions for you, but I'd love to know, is there anything else in terms of, things that people should remember as they're, delivering quality to their audience?
I'm not asking you guys to purchase a $5,000 camera, right? Like all you need is just this. But keep in mind, like little things like let's clean your screen before you start filming, because it actually makes a huge difference in terms of the blurriness. Instead of using a front camera, use your back, right? It's a little bit higher quality. And again, you want to make sure that your hook, your message in your video is maximized, right? And nothing is distracting it. In terms of lighting, film in front of a natural light, right? If you have a big window, if you don't, ring lights are great. And here's a good tip. If you don't have a ring light, or you're filming in a basement, or it's dark outside, go on your TV, go on YouTube, search up white screen, and it'll do the exact same thing as a ring light.
That is a great tip.
So it's free. I don't have to order a ring light now, and I don't have to set it up.
That is such a great tip. I'm going to send my ring light back. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. That's amazing. Again, I didn't realize that your back camera was actually better than the front one, because I do all my videos like frontwards because I don't have like a clicker thing to stop it.
I mean, if you have an iPhone 12, it doesn't make a difference. Like that camera is superior, like, right? Flawless. But I got a Samsung 9, so I'm gonna use the back camera because it's a lot better quality. You can tell the difference when something's filmed back versus front, and just do it yourself as an example, right? Just do a talking bit and then turn it around and see the difference, and you can probably tell.
I love that so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then in terms of, your like your content strategy and the things that people are sharing on their social media, like how can listeners integrate TikTok into their overall content strategy, but also in a way that helps them like monetize the content that they're putting out? It might be two separate questions, but
100%, right? So we know TikTok is short attention span app. So what do? Well, we're going to repurpose what we've already created. So if you have a blog and it's already showing the top 10 tips for business, starting up your business kind of thing, we'll break each video into a part 1 to 10 series, right? So that you capture your audience, you're still delivering value. You're not giving away the whole farm in one video, but you're giving them reasons to follow you or potentially become clients. So that's one way of creating your content and repurposing it. And do the same thing with your Instagram posts. The best way that I like doing things is I like creating my month's content based on a specific topic I would like to cover, and just break that down into 4-week segments of what topics I'm going to cover. So it's organized and I'm not thinking about what I'm going to talk about in my content or when I go live, what I'm going to be talking about. It's already laid out for me.
Right.
Sense.
Right. I love that. That's such a great idea. And then from that lens, you can literally just take your content, you make a TikTok out of it, transform that TikTok into a reel, and you take that and you break it out into other things too. That's really, really great. I love that. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but in terms of, finding what type of content that you should be posting, how can someone figure out, I guess, because you were saying before, like, to be authentic and be yourself and really being, truthful to who you are. So it's like, if you're someone who's like naturally funny, like, do you recommend bringing that humor out there? Or like, if you're a business owner, is it bad to like, I don't know, go in and do those like trendy TikTok videos and stuff like that?
No, I think TikTok gives a great way to just bring a different dimension to you. Yes, while most of my clients are just talking straight like this, I would say do this breakdown where it's 50 to 60% of the time you're educating and you're providing evergreen content. Evergreen content, meaning things that are true today, true in 1 month, true in 1 year, and maybe, just maybe, still even true in 5 years, right? So evergreen content. And the reason why we do that is because we want to show up as a thought leader in our field, as well as a go-to expert, right? Simona, if Global News came and asked you to be part of their news segment, would you say no?
No, I would say yes.
But why? Why would you say yes?
Oh, it has such an impact on your brand, and it really positions you as the expert in your niche, right?
Exactly. And the reach, right? Like Global News has about 90 million viewers a week.
Yeah.
TikTok has 350 million over the age of 30 on the app, right? So you have the reach, you want to be seen as a thought leader. It's the exact same thing of why you would say yes to Global News. And this is why you need to say yes to TikTok for your business.
I love that so much. So good. So then in terms of the actual app itself, how does the algorithm work and how does it figure out like where to place you in terms of other people's content?
Yeah, that's a great question, Simona. So if we were to compare it back to Instagram, because I'm assuming all your listeners are on Instagram, yes. When you post on Instagram, who do you think it goes out to?
The people that you're following. And if you're lucky, the people who are searching for your hashtags.
If you're lucky, you said it. Right? What does that mean? It means that your content on Instagram is usually sending out to people who are already following you, your network, your friends, your family, people who engage with your content quite often. So the same 20, 30% of your followers, if you notice, right? On TikTok, the beauty of the algorithm is that when you create a post on TikTok, it sends it out to a sample of 100 people, right? As an example. That 100 people will be 30% of your followers, 30% of your local people in your area, and 30% of people based on the hashtags you're using that would be most interested in your content. So 50 to 60% of the time, there are new eyes on your content. There are new potential areas to showcase as a thought leader and as an expert in your field to new clients, basically.
I love that so much. So then in terms of the hashtags themselves, what are some tips to make sure that you're using like the right hashtags? Because it's definitely not 30 hashtags like you have on Instagram. Is it bad to use the ones that are really big? Like, does it disappear as quickly as it would if you're using big hashtags on Instagram?
Yes, you hit it right where you can't use 30 hashtags. You're only allowed like probably around max 7 after
Yeah.
your description. My strategy with my paying clients is to use micro hashtags. Okay. The reason why we use micro hashtags is because of the batching system that TikTok puts you in, right? So we talked about the 100 people, your sample video that's going to go out to. We want to make sure that out of those 100 people, most of them are who we want to target. And so by using micro hashtags, it really narrows down who your audience should go to, right? Simona, if you, for example, if you serve moms, for example, you want to figure out what the hashtags, well, what kind of moms? Moms over 30, stay-at-home moms, moms who like to work out, moms who are working, moms with toddlers, maybe, right? So you really want to narrow down your hashtags to the ones that aren't so big, but yet narrow down who TikTok should send it out to.
Oh, I love that. That's a great tip. And especially because, like you said, like you can only use 7 of them or so. I mean, you don't have a lot of chances to like, you got to get it right. You know what I mean? You got to make sure you're talking to the people that it's meant for. And now, do you have any tips for like the description?
Use the description to your advantage, right? Like maybe make it into a hook, like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. Like now I'm going to be like, well, now I got to see what happened.
What happened?
Or like you ask an engaging question, post your favorite podcast, right? And maybe like you're gonna be like, well, why do I need to know what your favorite podcast is? Maybe that will give you research information of what your audience is watching, and you can now see your competitors and see what they're talking about that you're not covering. That's really interesting to your audience, right? So it's like research management as well.
I love that. That's really, really great. And then from there, I mean, if you have your description, you have your hashtags all set up, that's awesome. Is there now, because I remember at one point there wasn't, and I'm not sure if there is now, but is there like a link in bio on TikTok?
There is a link in bio.
Oh.
So if you decide to use a business account, you automatically get that option. There are some downsides to the business account where you can't use trending songs. So you get a lot of elevator music,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
On the creator side, you do get a link in bio after you hit 1,000 followers.
Okay.
So that gives you that option to work hard. And then once you get to that point, you can have a link in bio.
Okay.
But you can always like link up your Instagram so that you can have a call to action, like DM me on IG until then.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I love that. And then I actually have a question about, creating the actual content. So there's so many people who have all these like really cool videos and cool fonts on their screens and stuff like that. Like, are there other apps to be creating in and then importing into TikTok? Like, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I personally like creating my own videos off of TikTok. There's a couple of reasons why. One, the quality stays higher instead of when I download that video from TikTok, remove the watermark, then put it onto my reels, etc. Two, in case my TikTok app ever disappears, I have that video now on my phone. And three, it makes it a lot easier to repurpose onto multiple channels, as well as adding my text there. So I do like to use InShot, which is a free app. You can just watch some ads and same thing. It also allows you to clip larger volumes of videos. So for example, if you're talking 10 minutes straight to your camera, now you can just clip pieces of that film that makes sense for your videos.
That's such a great tip. I love that so much. Because I was like on there and I'm like, how do people I'm like, I don't like this font. Like you can't even see what I'm writing. That's really, really great. And now I have a question for you that's not so much in terms of like the function and stuff like that of the app. But I would love to know your thoughts or your perspective on how you feel like TikTok has brought people back together again in terms of like community and connection and care.
100%. I mean, off of the whole business side, it brings people together because it was an outlet for a lot of people during the pandemic, right? Like you saw the stats of TikTok being downloaded. It went from like, January 2020, February 2020, and then March 2020 is just like spiked up because everybody's at home. And the fact that TikTok provides a more genuine platform where you don't have to have makeup on. You don't have to have beautiful clothes on. It made it a lot easier for people to make films at home, right? So it definitely has blossomed into a strong community of like users and creators and business accounts. From a business perspective, if you close down your brick and mortar store and lost that foot traffic opportunity, and you're new to the online world, TikTok is where you should also consider exploring your marketing campaigns on.
That's such a good point. That is such a good point, because like it's just, the reach is so different. I've seen all of these incredible businesses, like candle making businesses, and like, all these different businesses that I never would have come across if they didn't put their content on there. And like, it is so fun to watch people pour candles. Like, it's so much fun.
100%. I mean, it's not just candles, right? Like yes, it's candles. Yes, you got product-based companies. We also got people who sell high ticket items like coaches, lawyers, accountants on there giving free advice. So they're giving 1/10 of their advice. Then it becomes, oh my God, how do I work with Simona? I'm going to contact you. And then now you're going to move me over off of TikTok, bring me onto a different platform where you can still nurture me and keep me like engaged. And now I'm going to be like, I'm ready to work with Simona. What I got the funds kind of thing.
Exactly. That's such a good point. I honestly, Samantha, like this has been so informative. I've loved this so much. In terms of like all of the different platforms that have been created this year, like between TikTok and Clubhouse, it's really hard to know where to like invest your energy, but then also how to do it sustainably in a way that you don't burn out, and especially as business owners. And I know everyone who's listening right now, like, if you've ever even wanted to start up a business, it's like, first of all, like, where do I start? And second of all, like, how do I even get what do I even do for content? And so then you think like, okay, well, there's Instagram and there's Facebook and there's LinkedIn and there's Twitter and there's TikTok and there's YouTube, right? But it's like, they all can actually play hand in hand. You just have to know how you want to do it. So they should probably just contact you then. I love it. I'm going to ask you where they can find you, but before I do that, I want to ask you a question that I ask all my guests when they come on the show. And it's, how can someone create a little more happiness in their day, every day, starting today?
Oh, I love that question. Okay. When you get to a point in your business, whether you're starting out or you're matured in the cycle of your business lifetime, think of who your dream clients are, right? And I learned this mistake the hard way. Don't customize your offerings to every single client. You want to work with people who will respect your time, who sees the value of your service, and doesn't try to like nitpick and try to get discount from all your offerings, right? You gotta learn to say no to those clients, because they will burn you out, like in the sense that you will get drained from doing all that, and it's not sustainable. So figure out who your dream clients are, figure out what 3 offerings you offer to your clients, and deliver value based on what the problems they are having.
I love that.
That will keep you sustainable, and that will keep you in your happiness place in your business.
That's such a good point. I love that. It's true. I mean, it is so true. And that burnout is such a real thing that can happen, but it comes back down to like, you said it without saying it, like your own boundary and your own, how you want to run your business for you. Because that's the goal at the end of the day. If you have a business, it has to be working for you, right?
Exactly. Work for you, not against you, right? Exactly. You're doing this whole CEO, SHE.E.O thing because you want to spend more time with your family, because you want the flexibility. That doesn't make sense if you're like working till 4 a.m, pleasing a client that's asked for like 10 revisions already and doesn't respect the boundaries or the scope of work you delivered.
That is so true. That's a really good reminder. And I know it's a good reminder for everyone who's listening today. So thank you so much. Samantha, where can our listeners find you so they can learn more, maybe book a call, maybe, just find you on TikTok?
I'm sure all your listeners are already on Instagram. So definitely check me out on at the TikTok coach. And you can definitely get a lot of free value and tips and tricks on how to get started there as well.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I truly appreciate your time today. This was so lovely.
Well, thank you so much, Simona, for having me.
Of course, my pleasure. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to the podcast, you guys. Remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it. Well, It looks like we've made it to the end of this episode. I'm so grateful for you tuning into this week's episode, and I cannot wait to see you over on the next one. If you loved this conversation and this topic as much as I did, please feel free to leave us a rating or a review wherever you're listening. It takes just a second, and it is so important for us so that we can make sure to deliver this content to those who need it. I'm wishing you the most beautiful day wherever you are in the world, and remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.